When a great game from years past is looked back upon by a modern fanbase, people stop to wonder if they could ever get that same experience again, outside of just replaying the original. They want the same game, just changed up a little bit, modernized. And this is where the idea of the remake comes from. Nintendo has remade some of their greatest games from the past, and they've continued to do it for a long time. Not only to please the original fans who have this feeling of nostalgia about their favorite game, but also to make that money after reselling the same idea twice. Remakes are something that I definitely appreciate because I love experiencing some of my favorite games from the past with a modern twist on them. And in this video, I have 10 more ideas for remakes that could work well on the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo seemed to do really well with the Link's Awakening remake that they put out recently, as it's effectively a modern take on the original idea, remastering it with brand new visuals and features that everyone has seemed to really enjoy. And with the games that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I'd love to have a similar treatment happen to them. But what makes a game deserving of having a remake in the first place? Well, there's a couple criteria that I'm going to have for the games that are on this list. Number one, the original game must be good. After all, you're remaking this game, and the initial fan base that's going to get excited for it are the people who enjoyed the game in the first place. And if there's no fan base that enjoyed the game in the first place, there's going to be nobody spreading the news about this remake and telling people how much they've enjoyed it. Most good games generate a fan base, and this is the fan base that you're going to build upon with this new remake. But criteria number two, the original game also has to be flawed in some ways as to give a reason for the remake to try and improve upon it. Whether it's just one bad feature in the game that needs to be touched up and the whole experience will be made better because of that, or if it's simply modernizing a past experience that seems a little outdated. These touch-ups are what justify the remake and don't just make them a blatant cash grab. And with that being said, let's get started. The first game, or I should say trilogy of games that I'm going to be talking about in the number 10 spot in this video, is the Metroid Prime Trilogy. Upon the announcements and eventual delay of Metroid Prime 4 with it restarting development, Metroid fans have been hungry for a new game since the recent revival of the series with Samus Returns. I mean, Nintendo did make a Metroid Prime spin-off, but the fanbase just decided to hate on that one. Now, the original 3 Metroid Prime games are where it's at for the core Metroid fanbase. They want these games remade in HD, and I've got to agree with them here. It would be amazing to see these games touched up on the Nintendo Switch with a graphical improvement, potentially some multiplayer features added in there, just as an extra little thing to incentivize people who are on the fence about purchasing this to go out and buy it. After all, if a remake of the Metroid Prime Trilogy isn't financially successful, who says Nintendo is going to be making many more Metroid games after Metroid Prime 4? The fanbase has been vocal for a new Metroid game for a long time, and that seems like why Nintendo was trying to revive it here, but who's to say that's not a vocal minority? People have got to go out, purchase this game, and prove that they want to support the Metroid series going forward. And if that doesn't happen, the Metroid series probably isn't going to be getting these big budget titles going forward. We're probably just going to stick to remaking some of the 2D games and lower budget Metroid titles, and we'll probably never get back to the quality of the series that we had in the original Metroid Prime trilogy. That's why this remake is so important. It's not only going to provide this financial support that Nintendo needs for the series to justify continuing it, but it's also going to reintroduce the series to a modern fan base. There's lots of people who haven't played a Metroid game and could be introduced to the series through this trilogy. It makes sense to play the first 3 games before going to buy Nintendo's brand new Metroid Prime 4, which I'm sure they want to be the key selling point. This will just be a great way to hold Metroid Prime fans over until the brand new entry in the series drops. And I think it would be fantastic if they decide to remake it. The number 9 spot on this list goes to Pokemon Snap. This is a Nintendo 64 game that's sort of a cult classic, but it's gained a larger following over the years. Now, I think a remake of this title would just have to be glorified in HD, maybe with some modern Pokemon added in so that it's not just a Gen 1 thing, and it would likely be an eShop title because I don't think Nintendo should be able to charge a full price point for this game, and if they were to put it out on store shelves with a price of like $20 or something like that, it might not be worth it for them to go and manufacture all those copies. It might just be better for it to sit on the eShop. Hey, you could even make it an incentive for Nintendo Switch Online, just an extra thing added in there to make people want to buy the online service, because NES and SNES games, along with Tetris 99, haven't exactly been the biggest incentive to go and pay for an online service that doesn't work that well half the time. Pokemon Snap is a fun experience. You get to go around and take pictures of Pokemon. You can get some unique shots with it, and in HD it would be that much better. I know some Pokemon fans that are probably watching this video right now are thinking this isn't the only Pokemon game that deserves a remake, and you're right. There's going to be a pair of Pokemon titles that appear later on in this video. But for now, Pokemon Snap is a great Pokemon game that deserves a remake on the Nintendo Switch. Coming in at number 8 is a pair of titles, these being the original 2 Paper Mario games. With the recent announcement of Alpha Dream's bankruptcy and the Mario & Luigi series' future in doubt, I think that a revival of the Paper Mario series makes a lot of sense with a brand new title in the style of the original 2. But that's probably going to take a while to develop, so to hold fans over, why don't you remake the original 2 and put it out as a full price game on the Nintendo Switch? I don't even think people will mind. Maybe you should add an extra little bit of content in there besides just giving it the HD treatment, as that'll justify the purchase a little bit more. But these are the Paper Mario titles that fans have been clamoring for a new version of them to come out. Super Paper Mario is pretty good too, but it focuses more on the narrative and an action-based experience, which is a direction that many of the original Paper Mario fans don't want the series to go in. And Sticker Star and Color Splash are just a big stray away from the original too. The RPG style of the originals is where it's at, and that's what people want to see. There have been mods for the Thousand Year Door in HD, and they look absolutely stunning. If Nintendo puts something like this and makes it even better, for example, that would be absolutely incredible. You could probably even remake these games and sell them on their own, but making them a dual pack seems a lot better to me. It seems like less of a cash grab that way, and if these 2 titles being remade leads to a brand new Paper Mario game in the future in the style of the original 2, that'll be all worth it. Coming in at number 7 on this list is Golden Sun. The series which introduced Isaac as one of Nintendo's characters that they love to throw in Smash Bros. As an assist trophy has not gotten a new game in it since 2008. And the original Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance is a great game that's been critically acclaimed over the years, but many fans haven't been able to play it because it's on the Game Boy Advance and it was released a long time ago. All they get to hear about it is in videos like this, and they don't get to actually play it. If Nintendo for some reason ends up adding Game Boy Advance games to the Switch Online service, which probably won't happen for a long time, even if they were going to do something like that, that's probably where fans would be able to play it. It was on the Wii U Virtual Console as well, but I think a remake would be the best strategy here, because not only would you be able to give this game the HD treatment and great graphics for a Golden Sun game, is just something that I've been dreaming of for a long time, but this could also be a lead-in to continue the series and revive it going forward. If the remake doesn't work out sales-wise, then I think it's justified to end Golden Sun's existence as a big Nintendo series, but why not give it a chance to be revived? Usually, good quality of a game leads to good sales because people talk to their friends about how good a particular game is and say they should go and buy it and whatnot. And with the Golden Sun series, sales haven't always been the greatest, but you could try reviving it on the Switch and something may work out. Fire Emblem went through a dormant period, and when its revival happened on the 3DS with Fire Emblem Awakening, sales boomed for the series, and now it's become one of Nintendo's biggest. And with 3 houses on the Switch, the series is selling more units than ever before. Why can't Golden Sun have a similar revival here? Isaac is a great assist trophy that everybody loves seeing in Smash Bros., but we only get to see him there. Why don't we get to see him in his main series and start with a remake on the Nintendo Switch? That's probably the best point where we could begin with this. I alluded to Fire Emblem, so why don't we talk about it? Coming in at number 6 on this list is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. This is the 4th installment to the Fire Emblem series, and I think it's definitely the next in line to be remade. The last Fire Emblem game that we got remade was Echoes Shadows of Valentia, and we've gotten 2 of the other first 3 Fire Emblem games remade as well. So since we have remakes of Fire Emblems 1, 2, and 3, it only makes sense to go to number 4 next. I know there's lots of people who just want them to skip right to 6 and remake Binding Blade, but I think starting with Genealogy of the Holy War will be a lot better, considering that there's people who aren't as familiar with the events of this game, and it would be good to expose it to a modern audience in HD. This game introduced a weapon triangle, which was a very big staple in the series for a long time, and I think because of the massive creation of this game, it further justifies the idea to remake it. Fire Emblem 3 Houses was a really big game. It probably took a long time to make. And if Nintendo's going to try to put another main series Fire Emblem game on the Switch, it's probably going to take a long time to make that game as well. So why don't you space them out a little bit and put this remake in the middle? I know Echoes didn't sell the greatest, but it was at the end of the 3DS's life cycle, and we could kind of blame a little bit on that. Genealogy of the Holy War will probably be coming out in the middle of the Switch's life cycle. Definitely won't sell as well as 3 Houses did, but it'll probably sell decently, and you don't even have to charge full price for it if you think that it's not as big of a game as 3 Houses, and you're not adding enough content in there, besides upgrading it to HD, obviously. I'm not an expert in development, but you could probably use the same engine as 3 Houses and take a little shortcut on that. Coming in at number 5 on this list is the original Earthbound Trilogy, Earthbound Beginnings, Earthbound, and Mother 3, the latter of which never was released outside of Japan. Now, there have been English fan translations of Mother 3 coming about across the internet for a long time. And there's some mature themes in the game and some things that are a little bit questionable that I could see Nintendo not wanting to put it out here for, but including it in a trilogy kind of suppresses that a little bit, and with a full-on remake, you could even take out some of that stuff that you find is not as suitable for children. Sure, if you're doing a straight port and translation of the original, some of the themes may be a little bit more mature and not targeting the audience that you'd like an Earthbound game to target. But by remaking it, then you don't have to include that stuff. And if you're going to remake Mother 3, you might as well remake Earthbound as well. And if you're going to remake both of them, then why don't you throw in the very first one, Earthbound Beginnings, which was on the Wii U Virtual Console and a lot of people didn't experience it. Making them all in HD and remaking all of them means that they could all have similar graphical treatments. You could refine the combat a little bit. I don't know how you would want to change it, though it works pretty well in the games, but the HD treatment is definitely something that I think would help the Mother trilogy, especially considering that now we'll get to see all of the attack animations and they could look a lot better. This will also further expose the series to people who really only know it from Smash Brothers, and you could capitalize on a lot of sales because there's going to be people who want to play Mother 3 that have never played it before, and then they'd go and buy this trilogy, which you could probably charge full price for if you're Nintendo. Considering that you are getting 3 games in one, it's not that big of a scam. The number 4 game on this list that I think deserves a remake is Advance Wars. This is a title from the Wars series on the DS, and the innovative battle system that it introduced is absolutely incredible, and that's why I think it deserves an HD remake. You could have up to 4 armies battling, and there's different types of terrain, different types of tanks in your army. There's so many variables here that creates a nice strategic experience. Adding some more levels to it, some multiplayer features online that's expanded a little bit, could make for an incredible experience and hopefully revive this series. Like the aforementioned Golden Sun series, there hasn't been a new game in the Wars series since 2008, and it's become kind of a cult classic as of now, and because of that, why wouldn't you want to remake it and capitalize on this buzz that it's been getting from the internet? If the remake ends up turning out really well, I think it's going to sell a lot of units. And then you could potentially make more games in the Advance Wars series and revive it and make it one of Nintendo's big series. Nintendo loves introducing new IPs, but why don't you bring back some of the old IPs that people enjoyed from the past but didn't really sell as well, give them a new coat of paint, and maybe they'll stick. You can make this one of the big strategic Nintendo series that they seem to continually be trying to introduce. I just love for an Advance Wars remake on the Nintendo Switch. I think it could look so good in HD, even give it the Link's Awakening art style, make everything chibi and clay-like. That could be absolutely incredible. We're approaching the final 3 games on this list, and these games are the big ones. These are the ones I'd like the most to deserve a remake on the Switch. They all could have potentially taken the number 1 spots, but they're going to share 3 separate entries. The first game I want to talk about here is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Now, lots of people would like to see Ocarina of Time remade in HD or Majora's Mask or something like that, but the thing is, we've already gotten those remakes on the 3DS. They've improved a lot of things about the original games, and I'd love to see them in HD in the future, but for now we don't really need that remake that much. Skyward Sword is the remake we need. Let me explain why. During the Wii U era, we got the HD remake of The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Those were 2 games that I think needed some improvements for certain aspects of the game, like the sailing in Wind Waker, for example, and definitely the tutorial area of Twilight Princess. Both were aspects that were improved in their HD remakes. But Skyward Sword's remake, on the other hand, needs to improve the controls. One of the big turnoffs of Skyward Sword to many people is the motion controls involved with the Wii remotes and how shaky they were. Not only did some people not want to use the motion controls outright, but some people didn't like the fact that you had to swing your sword around, and sometimes when you swing it in one direction, it didn't calibrate perfectly. In the original presentation that they were giving for Skyward Sword, there were issues with these motion controls, and I think that if you're going to try to present a game and show off the motion ability, the fact that it's messing up there in the presentation where it's probably the most heavily cared for it could possibly be, shows that there are some flaws with it. Now, I know the Joy-Cons are pretty messed up controllers overall, with the drifting being a common occurrence over many different Joy-Cons, but the motion control aspects I don't think are as bad. Sure, the joysticks have some issues, but swinging around a Joy-Con and you could potentially have like a sword peripheral or something like that, that could be a really cool experience. I definitely think the motion capabilities of the Joy-Cons are a lot better than the Wii remotes, especially since you don't even need a sensor bar. This could provide a way better experience for Skyward Sword. The next pair of games I want to talk about that deserves a remake in the number 2 spot are Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. These are the Pokemon games I was teasing earlier that I was going to talk about in this video, and I think they're definitely going to be remade next year. I'm almost 100% certain of it. I'd bet a ton on that. It just seems like it's perfectly in line to be remade right now. Pokemon Sword and Shield are the big Pokemon games for this year. We got Let's Go, which was somewhat of a spin-off and main series title at the same time last year, I think to buy some time for Sword and Shield, and now it seems like the perfect time next year to release a Diamond and Pearl remake, a full-on one. Unlike Let's Go, which is combining a lot of aspects of Pokemon Go, this would be more of a remake like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, Heart Gold Soul Silver, a remake like that. Diamond and Pearl are flawed in many ways, mainly due to the speed and pacing of the game. Move animations take a long time to pull off, and there's massive breaks between certain gyms that break the pacing of the game. The level grinding was also annoying in Diamond and Pearl, considering after you beat the 8th gym, you have to grind for a long time in order to get your Pokemon to an adequate level to face the Elite Four to have a decent shot against them. These are all problems that a remake could easily fix. The move animations could be made a lot smoother and faster, the pacing could be changed by using Platinum's gym order, which fixed a lot of those issues, and level grinding in the days of modern Pokemon has been virtually non-existent because of the XP share, which has been pretty broken. A sign that these games are going to be remade is that there's not a lot of Sinnoh Pokemon in Sword and Shield. I believe the number is below 40, and that's because they could be saving these Pokemon for Diamond and Pearl to include them in that Pokedex, as opposed to the Sword and Shield Galar Pokedex. I'd love to see Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remade. I really enjoyed those games, but they do have some problems that could easily be fixed. And this is why I'd love to see them come out next year, and I still think they're going to. The final game that I want to talk about in this video that I'm sure many of you have anticipated is Super Mario Sunshine. I know many people would like me to put Mario 64 or the Galaxy games in this spot, but let me explain why Sunshine is the game that makes sense. Nintendo has already tried remaking Mario 64 on the Nintendo DS, and I get it's not this big HD remake that people want for it, and trust me, I would really love an HD Mario 64, but I think it makes more sense to remake Sunshine, especially considering that this game hasn't gotten a remake yet, and it comes directly after Mario 64. I think Galaxy remakes would have to come after Sunshine unless they want to do just a straight up remaster, an enhanced port of the Galaxy games, just upscale them to HD while not entirely remaking everything. That would probably only be for the possibility of a Galaxy 3 coming on the Switch though. If they're not going to do a Galaxy 3, I think Nintendo would probably remake Sunshine first, and it makes a little more sense to do it that way. Super Mario Sunshine is a great game, but it has some flaws that could definitely be addressed in the remake, mostly the collision and glitches. There are so many times where you'll try to make a jump in Mario Sunshine and you'll just clip through a block or you'll fall off because of the poor collision. This is something that can be easily fixed in a remake because you're going to be rebuilding these things with a modern engine. Maybe the Super Mario Odyssey engine, who knows. I also feel that this remake could have potentially been teased in Odyssey because they originally seemed to have an Isle Delfino Kingdom in the game but seemingly scrapped it. That could also be a tease for Super Mario Sunshine 2 though. But if they are going to do a Sunshine 2, wouldn't it make sense to remake the original Sunshine first and put that out before people experience the sequel? Who knows, there are many different possibilities Nintendo could take with this remake, as well as the other remakes that I mentioned in this list. Let me know what games you'd like to be remade on the Nintendo Switch in the comment section down below, and consider subscribing if you want to see more of this type of content in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.